Hey y'all, this 333. We got a brand new episode for you tonight. Can't wait to dive into this one. Let's see what Preacher and Scorpio got to say in 3, 2, 1. This is what recovery looks like.
What is up, everybody? We are back for another Preacher's Corner. I know it feels like, everybody has seen episodes dropping every week, but for us, it's been a while since we recorded.
Going through withdrawals.
I'm telling you. You guys won't see, we haven't recorded since we recorded Conrad, who you guys saw last week, but where we're recording now, he won't be on for another couple weeks. It's all confusing. It's all confusing. But anyways, so where we're sitting today, he hasn't aired yet, but by the time you hear us, he will have aired last week.
And then we'll be airing soon if it makes any sense to you. If it does. It does in our head.
We are starting a new format, a new way of doing this. And so just before we dive in, I want to thank everybody for coming. We'll have this new format go, and we'll still have guests every now and then, but just a little insight on why we're doing this. I was talking to Scorpio and was telling him, basically getting guests for every episode isn't sustainable. Eventually, we're not going to find people for every week. So I said we need to switch it up a little bit. So we're going to start doing topics, just like a normal podcast would. Topics that have to do with addiction, recovery, and mental health. And when we do have guests on, there'll be a special guest that episode, and we'll find out about their story, things like that, but it will intertwine with the topics. And so
and we'll pick their brain apart with our topic.
Absolutely. So I'm excited for this new way we're doing this. This is a way where like tonight, you see, we were supposed to have somebody on, but unfortunately he had some family things going on, so he's not going to be with us tonight, but we'll be recording him next week. And so he'll be a special guest for the next episode. And so this gives Scorpio and I the opportunity to still record, still put out episodes, even if we don't have guests on board.
Plus, be real. You come on a show because you want to see us anyway. So that's the whole point.
So and it gives sustenance. It's sustainable. So, and then I was thinking we should, because we do our Thursday thoughts. Thanksgiving is on a Thursday.
Yes, sir.
So I was thinking maybe if Scorpio and I can work it out, we might do a Thanksgiving live stream just to find out how everybody is that day and drop a live show on Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Oh, I might be with my family too on that day. That would be
nice. That would be
nice.
Be
a good one. Be a good one.
So, we'll look out for that. We'll have more news on that as we come closer and we start figuring certain things out. So, but tonight I am excited for this new format. We have about 5 or 6 topics that we came up with. I'm going to try to make sure the show doesn't go over like an hour and a half. So as we come close to the hour and a half mark, wherever we are, we'll stop and go on with the topics later. But also to keep this going, whoever's listening, if you have any topics that you want to hear, anything you want to hear us talk about, anything like that, let us know in the comments below, so that we can start bringing this stuff up on the show. Because this is just as much, this is your guys' show just as much as it's ours. And so we want to make sure that what you guys want to talk about, what you guys want to hear is what we're talking about, so that we can accomplish what we're setting out to do, which is to inspire and motivate those that listen so they can go out and help people around them. So,
and if you have any other comments revolving around what we're talking about, by all means, throw it in the comment section. If you hear something that you like, or you hear something about what we're talking about, and you want to throw comments about what topics we're talking about, or you have any type of, comment about what we were talking about tonight or any other night, by all means, that's what the comment section is for. Say what you want to say and put it out there, and we have no problem talking about it and trying to, help you. I mean, this is what recovery is for. This is what
Absolutely.
we're trying to do, is help. So, I mean, by all means, man, do it, put it out there.
and you will have, like, if you make a comment, you will see a response. We now have, we've been working out structure and bringing some people on. So 333 is helping us out with Thursday Thoughts, and we'll bring him on to do a couple panel like stuff like that. We have Conrad, who you guys would have seen now a couple weeks. Oh no, Conrad isn't the one who people are seeing like before this. That is our man every 11 minutes. Conrad, you guys saw like 3 weeks ago.
It's Jenna. It's Jenna who they just would have seen just now, because Jenna's the one that we just dropped, right?
Yeah, but then we have Tiffany, and then we have every 11 minutes. So
Conrad we got a team now.
Conrad was the week before Jenna, which now you watching now was like 4 weeks ago.
True.
But Conrad, he will be doing meditation Mondays. So he's going to do in his episode, if you don't remember his episode, because it was like 4 weeks ago at this point that you're listening, he talked a lot about meditation and yoga and things like that. And so we thought it'd be real cool to have him give us some videos and start a meditation Monday with Conrad. And so just a good way to start your week, get zoned in, and we'll probably those will probably drop on Mondays at like 9:00, just to give everybody a way to zone in and focus. And then we have our girl Tiffany, who you will have now, on the dropping of this episode, will have seen 2 weeks ago. And she is going to be handling like admin stuff and answering comments on YouTube and setting up appointments for us, things like that.
She's holding all the stuff down in the back.
We're getting a nice little organization going. And I just figure it's better to do it now when we're small than to try and do it when we get bigger. And so I'm excited where Preacher's Corner is going. And eventually it'd be cool when we start doing actual live in person, where Scorpio and I are in the same room doing episodes. Like, that'd be like, eventually that's where we're going to get to. Eventually.
That's the dream, man.
That's the dream. And so, and we couldn't do it all. We couldn't do any of it if it wasn't for you guys who are watching this. So I'm excited just for this new season, and how we're doing things. And so, yeah, here we go. So
we'll do it.
The first thing we want to talk about is just addiction, like in the full sense. And I think a lot of times, and this is more so for people who aren't in addiction, I think there's a stigma, and one of the topics that I want to talk about in a couple of weeks is the stigma on addicts. And I don't think a lot of people realize that everyone is capable of being an addict. Everyone.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people will judge addicts without thinking that, like, at any time, and not even at any time, anybody can be an addict. I think there's something that everyone's addicted to. Like, you could be addicted to work, but that's more socially acceptable because they just call them go-getters or workaholics, or like people don't look down most of the time on people who are addicted to work. They're like, man, that bro is ambitious. Look how ambitious they are. Like I just
But
heard.
people,
So I
yep,
love Eric Thomas, motivational speaker. Eric Thomas, awesome dude.
okay, yeah,
But I was listening to him today, and one thing he said was, like, if you want to get it, you have to, like, you have to not get sleep. You have to stay up until like 3 a.m. and wake up at 5, and like, you have to be the last one to go to sleep and the first one to go to wake up, and like that's like if you don't want to do it, like a lot of people want the reward that comes from the dream, but they don't want to do what the dream says and stuff like that. And I'm like, and I started thinking about that. And I'm like, no, that's bad. Like, especially if you have a family. like,
yeah,
yeah,
because that
it
means
seems all
you're,
good and everything because you're getting what you want, but at the end of the day, you're working all the time. That's addiction.
yeah, that's like putting your family like on the, that's like putting everything on the back. Like, granted, I get your dreams. Like this, granted, this is my dream. What I'm doing is right now. It's my dream, and I'm happy. I'm blessed that I get to do my dream. But I also have things around my dream.
Mm-hmm.
So, granted, I put a lot of effort into our dream here. I do a lot of research. I do, you see what we do. We put a lot of effort into this, but that
Absolutely.
doesn't mean that I can't have other things incorporated. It's all about how you put time into it. But when you get addicted to things, you don't see addiction's hard. It's easy to slip into it. And you're right. People make that mistake. There's addictions to food, and people don't see it, and that's what you got to be nervous. That's what you got to be careful about. Because when you, like in sobriety, when you start doing sobriety, you sometimes don't see that when you get rid of an addiction, you may pick up a new addiction without even seeing it. You
Which is
know,
something we're gonna talk about in a couple weeks too. Is well, I think we're
especially
not
what,
this week.
not
But
this week.
in a couple weeks, we're going to talk more about it. Is replacing your addiction with something that's productive.
Exactly, because I see that, me being where I'm at now, I see that all the time. Like, I especially here, like, people will drop their addictions, whether it's heroin, crack, cocaine, whether it's drinking. Those are the major ones that you're in a halfway house or you're in, like, a drug court or things like that. That's what your main thing is that's your, sir, your main thing to drop. But then you forget that, when you drop those, you shouldn't be now going to the store getting a shit ton of freaking scratch off tickets because now you done picked up gambling. You shouldn't be, now going to, the store buying a shit ton of cookies and cakes and shit because now you trying to fill that void because you don't know how to deal with your emotions anymore. So now, how do you deal with it? You eat, or you're now trying your best to fill that void, but you don't know how. And they don't really teach you those things. I mean, AA doesn't teach you how to fill that void. They really just try to say, trust in your higher power, and that'll solve it. But your higher power doesn't teach you that, and neither really has I've seen so far. Maybe I haven't seen them yet, but even in my outpatient classes, none of them have really shown me like how to deal with, like, okay, well, how do I deal with after that? When I okay, I got rid of my, I got my addiction settled, but now how do I, block another addiction that's creeping up on me?
Well, and
How do
that's
I, or how do I even see it?
a lot of times, and real quick, I looked it up. The definition of addiction. A lot of people, I think, when they hear addiction, they think of the bad things like drugs and alcohol and pornography and sex and gambling and things like that. They hear, when I think a lot of times when people hear addiction, those are really the common things that people like associate with addiction. Not many people are eating addiction, a food to an addiction to food. I think, but I don't think people think of, and I guess sex could be considered like a good thing because we need sex to populate the earth.
Yes, we do. Yeah,
But
I agree.
thank thank you for the agreement. I think a lot of times we don't think of the good things. Like someone can be addicted to their family. Someone can be addicted to work, like we said. Someone can be addicted to cars. Someone can be addicted to whatever it is. And so here's the definition. Addiction is a chronic mental health disorder that goes into the addiction recovery mental health. Chronic mental health disorder that involves a compulsive need to do or use something. And then it says right under it, addiction is a chronic condition that involves a person losing control over their use of a substance or activity to the point where it's harmful to them. And so I think too much of something is a bad thing.
Moderation.
Too much of something is a bad thing. So if like work in and of itself isn't a bad thing, we need work, but too much of it could be considered an addiction.
Yep.
Money. We need money. Like you have to work to get money. We need money. If you want to survive at any point in this process called life, you need money.
Unfortunately.
So having money, like in and of itself, isn't bad. But when all you focus on is I need to get money, again, people call that person ambitious or a go-getter or successful or success-minded. But at the end of the day, if you'll do anything to get that, it's an addiction. Yeah. And so video games, whatever it is, I think a lot of people a lot of people are addicted to something, but it's not something bad, and they pass it off, and people let them pass it off. And so I think it's important that with that definition, that it being a chronic condition that involves a person losing control over their use of a substance or activity to the point where it's harmful to them. If you are doing something more than you should and it's causing harm to you or people around you, and it might not be physically, it might be mentally, spiritually, emotionally. If it is causing you problems in your life because you are doing it excessively and people are noticing, you might have an addiction. Yeah. And that's hard. That's hard to admit. Nobody wants to sit there and admit. That's why half of us who were living on the street in oblivion, because nobody wants to sit there at the end of the day and say, yes, you're right, I have an addiction.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really will admit that. I mean, that's why the first step in AA is admitting you were powerless over, the drug or alcohol. Absolutely. Because that's the hardest part, because you're not going to admit that. You're never going to admit, like, yo, this shit has control over me. Like, it's got me. Like, when you're on the street, you're not going to admit that. You're not going to say, like, you will always say while you're on the street, I got this. I can. How many times have you heard? How many times have we said personally, each other, man, we quit when we want to. Man, I quit tomorrow. I will quit. Nigga, you done told me how many times to my face, Kyle, I will quit tomorrow if I want to. Right now, I will quit, Kyle, tomorrow. But right now, we about to go get this done.
Thing comes on 5 hours later.
5 hours later. Pass me that pipe.
24 hours later.
Man,
where's the drugs?
You know, we got to go back. We got to go back to the spot. You know, and it's because
Oh,
you in your
did
head.
I say tomorrow?
You know,
I meant the day
I met
after
last week.
tomorrow.
I met last week because you know I got shit on my head. I'm stressed. That's why I met last week because you know something always comes up. Something always stresses you out. But that's life. Life will always come at you, and that's because in that's why you need to learn how to deal with life, and that's why learning like how you just described what addiction is. Learning what addiction means is important because when you don't know what that word means you'll never be able to admit to yourself, like, yo, I think I have a problem. You know, and sometimes, like you said, people won't notice that. You know, people won't notice, yo, maybe I have an addiction to like playing video games too much. You know, maybe that is a problem. Some people it's not a problem. Some people make goofball money fucking make doing that shit. Like you know, look at like mad shit online. Like people make a lot of money doing that. But it doesn't mean necessarily like that's their whole life though. A lot of those people like, yeah, they make money doing it, but they have outside lives. Like they don't just sit on the game. Like they interact, you know, with other shit in their life. Like and then they play video games. Not 24/7 is their life on the game. That's an addiction, or like you said, being a go getter is there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with putting yourself forward and trying to move ahead in your career. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're putting your family and things like that on the back burner because you want to get ahead in a career, yeah, there's a problem with that. Maybe you need priorities. That's a
And I think
problem.
that's um like that goes into like the next thing we want to talk about is just that transition from addiction to recovery, and it's that first step. Like a lot of people, you hear it all the time in recovery. Like that first step is the hardest step, and that first step is to, like Scorpio said, admit that you're powerless. And once you, by admitting that you're powerless, you have, I think, really the first step. It's a kind of like a double thing because in admitting you're powerless, you have to admit that you have a problem as well.
How
Because
about
you
this?
can't.
How about this? How about this? I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours. When was the first time that you knew? When can you tell me you knew that you were like, okay, I'm powerless over my shit?
That's a good question.
I
Because
got
we
good
talk
ones.
about
I
it all
know.
the time. There were
There's so
multiple
many
times.
times, but
There were
when
multiple
did
times
it
that
hit?
I would be like, oh, I mean, I used to say I'm a social smoker. Like I
That
and yet I would
keep
smoke
going.
and keep
Exactly.
going, even when I was by myself. Um,
But when were you admitting? When were you like, yo, I'm powerless over this drug? Like this, it got me. Like I'm powerless.
I think it was the I think the day, and you might remember this, the day that I reached out to and him hearing this for the first time might be a shock to him. Like
Mm,
the day I reached out, because he listens to this podcast, so
mm,
like, so I just want to say, like, this was my addiction, like, and I did things that that I'm not proud of, and
right.
I, and so I think that when I realized um, that I was powerless, um, was the day that I had reached out to my godfather, and if you
Mm,
remember, he sent like a decent amount of money to us, and
mm,
and remember what I said? He said like that. He was like, "Yo, this is the last time I'm sending you money, but you need to go, like, take care of shit." Basically, like paraphrasing. You need to go take care of your shit. And what did we go do? We went and spent it on drugs. Like, and so I think that day I realized that because the day I decided that I definitely need to leave the streets was that day that I had wiped myself with my hand that we talked about like in a couple episodes ago. But the day that I realized that I was powerless to this drug was when I realized, like, and I think when people stopped sending me money too, like they saw it before I saw it.
Yeah.
When I had family, like my cousin reached out to me one time because I had asked her for money. We were sitting by Lexington, and we were trying to get money, and you know how we would do when it would be time, like when we needed money, we'd just start reaching out to everybody we could. And so one time I had reached out to my cousin and I was like, yo, I need $20, went on the whole spiel and everything. And she told me, like, you need to go get help. And I was like, what? Well, I don't need help. But then, but she wasn't the only one who noticed, and it was people were noticing that I don't even know how they noticed. Like, and in a way I do now that I'm on the other side. Like when someone's constantly asking you for $20 for gas, like you're like, okay, your car is not running out of gas. That either you need a new car because it's eating up your gas, or you need to stop driving around so much, or you're bullshitting me. Like, it's one of the three. Yep. And so I think they knew it wasn't my car was eating up gas. They knew I wasn't driving around a lot. So there's one other thing. And so I think that's at that point when people started realizing that I had a problem before I even realized I had a problem. That's when I realized I had a problem. And I forget who it was. I think it was James. Back at the beginning of all this said, it was one of the last things he said, like, it isn't a problem until it's a problem.
It isn't.
And so I was able to, I can't say I was able to like function while I was using, but I thought I was able to function enough where people couldn't notice, but people could notice.
Exactly.
And that's one thing that made me step down, because I was falling asleep at work. My messages were becoming sloppy. The thing that I love to do was now being like it said, like that definition of addiction, we'll go back to it, to the point where it's harmful to them. And I would even add to the point that it starts sucking away all your joy and everything that you love to do.
Yeah.
I think that's when I realized that I had a problem. And you know what? I would go as far to say that I realized I had a problem before I could even admit that I had a problem. Because I think I realized I had a problem when I stepped down from being student pastor. Because that's why I stepped down from being student pastor. Because I realized what I'm doing is a problem. But then, in order to make myself feel better, I told myself I don't have a problem. Then why the hell did you step down from being a student pastor if you don't have a problem?
That was your conscience telling you, yo, either, you know, what you're doing is wrong. So step down and do the right thing. At least a part of you, at least do the right thing, and stop. And you can't do this part, and you can't do this part. That's like being a drug counselor, but you're doing drugs. You know, you got to step down. You know, so do at least do this part. And I, you know, like I said back, you know, what like I said back then, I was like one of the hardest parts. One of the hardest parts about back then, and I still stand by it, you know, about being your friend back then was dealing that part, you know, was watching a friend of ours, you know, go through that, you know, and we knew how important, you know, that was for you. We knew it was important. We knew, and it was something you took pride in, and we knew that it was something that it was something that was really hurtful that you were gonna have to do. That's why going to the when you left for a while to go try to, you know, get yourself situated was important. And that's why we said go, you know, go get your head on straight. And then when you left, it was like, all right, you know, he'll get his head on straight. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe, you know, he'll be fine. But then in our heads, it's like, yeah, but in our heads, it's like, as we're still in our addiction, yeah, but he'll come back and still chill with us. Now, me being in recovery now, no, that's not how that works.
See, and
You can't come.
that was my intentions too. Like, okay, let me get
That's
through
not
these
how that
10 days. Let me get through these 10 days, and then I'm gonna come back and start chilling with my people again.
exactly. And now that we're recovered, that's not how that works. You can't. You just,
No,
you know, we both know that people, places, things, they have to change, unfortunately. And unfortunately, when you came back, it was exactly what they teach you not to do. You know, you went right back to the people, places, things, and then look what happened. You know, drugs came back into the mix just
and even worse,
immediately.
even
And
worse.
now, yeah, it's even worse now because now it's gotten to the point where you're like, now it's gotten to the point where, well, that didn't work, you
And that
know. So
and when I came back, that was life. Like, you have to think, before I left, I had, during the day, I had that time to have, I guess you could say, like a reprieve from the
exactly,
drugs. And so
yeah,
it wasn't that I was around it constantly, 100% all the time. I had that
yep,
time from 8 in the morning till 6 at night where
yep. And
I
then
wasn't
for
around it. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm out of work. Let's go smoke.
yep, now
But
it
then
was
when
a
I came back and
24/7.
I stepped down, and then even at my parents' house, I wasn't able to smoke. I wasn't able to get out to you guys because if you remember, I didn't even have my car at first when I came back.
Yeah,
As soon as
because
I
you
got my
you
car,
got a
that
mama.
was it.
Yeah,
As soon as I
that
got
was
my
it.
car, that was it. And even for a while, if you remember, I couldn't find you guys, and so I would
Yeah,
find like an excuse to get to the city. I'd go out there, wouldn't be able to find you guys, and I would go back. And then when I
which is
found you guys, that was it.
you know,
And
and you know what? That's funny. You know, that's in retrospect, that's like, you know, you know, y'all be working the same way. That's like guys like trying to show you like, nigga, you ain't supposed to find them. That's why, you know, you not there, and you just
or
feel like,
what?
nah.
Or was I supposed to find you?
Or was you? Because look where it led now. You know, so
Absolutely.
it's hard to decide whether or not. I mean, you know, there's a, you know, God's got a plan for all of us. So it's like, you know, did we go down the right road? Did we not? You know, it's hard to decide
And I
whether or
think
not.
about that every day because if I like,
There's so many
and
different
it's
paths
hard.
you could have
It's
chose.
hard because let's say I went to Colorado, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
came back and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm sorry, you guys. I love you guys, but I can't show with you. Like, and then I like went back in, uh, started doing the student pastor thing again, and everything was great. The question then becomes, all these lives that we're affecting now, we're impacting now, all the lives through my job at Flacker and things like that, all this stuff that I'm doing now, that we're doing now, like,
You know,
it's heavy. It's heavy because how many
it's a heavy
people
one.
are going to come out of addiction because of it? if
What I
we if
what I
I
do
had
here.
not if I had chosen to stay as student pastor.
That's right. I would honestly say would I be here right now? I don't think so. I don't. I really don't. I don't think that I would be here. I think I would still be in my addiction. Right now with my wife, right now on the street, freezing, right now in the goal. Like point blank, I'd be right now in the goal. Talking about what we're how we getting high right now. And because of decisions that you made, and then decisions that I ended up making, along the way, because it got, now I'll switch to me. So before I met you, I grew up. I grew up. I grew up in Queens, and my dad. My dad wasn't around a lot, so my grandfather and my grandmother used to come get me on weekends, and I spent time out with them all the time. So my grandfather, I call him Cowboy, and I grew up with him, and he would take care of me a lot. Like he taught me how to be a man. Him and my uncle Derek and my grandfather Eddie are really the ones that kind of molded the man that you see today. Granted, my dad has a lot to do with who the man you see in front of you, but it was really these men, these men that kind of really put the groundwork in. And Cowboy kind of really taught me a lot. And as he got older, I got older, and he ended up catching cancer. And during our addiction, it got worse. And I knew it was getting worse. So fast forward now, me and Julie are out here, and he ends up going into the hospital. So I was supposed to go see him, but because we were in drugs, I didn't. I had the money. I had the money. I had the money to go see him. Um, Julia even put money aside for me to go see him. It was so bad that I even started blaming her. Like I'd be like, "It's your fault. This is your fault. Why I'm not going." Julia's like, "What are you fucking talking about? The money's here. Go take the money and go." But I wouldn't, because I'm like, if I do it, then you're not gonna have money and you're gonna be sick, and I don't want to do that. No, and that's fucking not true. It's just because I was so lost in my shit that I didn't want to admit that. Plus, I knew that I couldn't be in front of my family like this. I knew that as soon as they saw me, they'd know, like, what the fuck? So I wasn't going. And next thing you know, I got a call probably a week later saying, your grandfather passed away. And I was like, this is crazy. And that even made everything so much worse. I remember sitting in front of my wife and just started bawling, crying. And, she tried to console me, but it just was so much worse. And that's when drugs got really heavy. And I think it got worse because then she's like, well, are you going to the funeral? And I think this is why some of my cousins don't talk to me right now, because, and this is when I realized, like, I'm powerless to this drug. We had made sure I had enough money to get there and come back. She put money in a way on our card so I can go, and we still ended up using that money to get high with. Still, and I did not go to that man's funeral because of that. And now those are regrets that I have to live with the rest of my life. And it's like that's when I realized right then, like, yeah, I'm powerless. This shit got me. I was like, I'm this drug has got me, and it's bad. And all it did was make me want to use 10 times more.
Absolutely.
It made me want to stay in it. It made me want to use more. It made me want to continue to use more. It even got to a point where I was like, yo, fuck it. If I OD, then oh well. I'll see you up there, great cowboy. Like, I'll be up there in a minute.
Isn't
And
it
I
crazy
remember,
that we get so deep into it that the thing that causes separation between us and those that we love, when we feel separated from those that we love, we feel that the only way to numb that is the thing that causes separation.
yeah,
Um,
I thought about that. I thought about that the whole time, as your mind starts to get clear,
yeah,
and the fog starts to lift. And I think in the self, when I got sober, uh, because Jesus Christ, boy, was those detox days rough. Those 4 days, man, listen, those 4 days detox were rough. And I remember the fourth day, the third day. The third day, was one of the rough ones too. It was the last rough one. And I remember I was like, yo, I just wish I had died. And I was like, this is punishment. And then I remember, Cowboy passing away, and I was like, this is punishment for that. I was like, I deserve this. I was like, as I'm going through the pain, I was like, I deserve it. I was like, these are things that I deserve for not doing the things that I should have done. I was like, I deserve everything that I'm going through right now. I was like, this pain is for all the bad things, all the negative shit that I've done. I think that, you know, as I, this is probably not the best way to look at being dope sick. It's probably not. But when you go through the sickness, you do a lot of negative shit in your addiction. And in
absolutely.
my head, as I go through the dope, if you're trying to detox, as I went through it, I was like, this is like penance. I'm going through these 4 days of penance and these 4 days of hell because of all the negative shit that I've done. So yeah, this is the pain that I'll never be able to describe, but it's because of all the horrible, disgusting, nasty shit that I've done and all the horrible things that I feel, and I need to go through this pain because I need to remember why I don't want to do this again.
Yeah,
I have to. Because if I don't go through this pain, I'll just keep doing it.
absolutely.
I won't learn a lesson, and I'll just be like, fuck it. As soon as I get out, I'll do it again. So if I don't go through this pain, then what will stop me from when I get out? Why won't I just do it again? So I was like, I have to get through this pain. I was like, and there's no choice right now. I'm fucking in a cell. And so I remember the third day, I was like, yo, I remember I was like, just praying. I was like, oh, cowboy, please. I was like, just let me get through this last day, man. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I missed your funeral. I remember sitting there just praying. I was like, yo, man, I'm so sorry I missed your funeral, bro. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. But I swear to God, just let me get through this last one. I was like, I know it's one more, 2 more days of this, but please, 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 let me get through this. And here I am, months later, and I'm fine, but I had to get through the bullshit, and I had to admit to myself, like, yo, I'm powerless. This is a drug that had a hold on me that I just couldn't get away from, and even now, like, I can, now it's different, now I've, come to realize I'm not really addicted to the drug itself. It's a lot underneath shit that I was addicted to. Because now I could be around people that do the drugs. Like I'd be around people that do drugs now. I should be like, who the fuck cares? Get that shit away from me. But it's a lot underneath shit I had to, dig through and go to therapy and shit and figure out like, oh, okay, it's not the drug, it's, other shit. But in the beginning, I had to break it down and be like, at the core, I had to be like, I'm powerless. This is I can't do this shit no more. And I have to say, this is it. This drug has a hold, and it literally destroyed my family, my relationship with my family, my relationship with all my friends, even my fucking friends that I grew up in diapers with had called me and said, "Yo, dude, like, what the fuck?" And I'm sitting there like, "Yo, ain't nothing wrong with me." I'm literally cursing them out like, "Yo, fuck you." Like, ain't nothing fucking wrong with me. Ain't shit wrong with y'all. Y'all niggas bug me. Ain't nothing wrong with me. Lay ball $20. Like, I don't know what the fuck wrong with y'all. Lay ball fucking $20. Stop bitching. And like, in my head, it made sense. But it don't make sense to normal people. I remember, and my dad even said that recently. He was like, "You know, your grandmother knew you out getting fucked up out here." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Nana knew." He was like, "Yeah, your grandmother knew. She been known. She knew back when you were asking her for fucking $50 and shit. Like, you know, who the fuck called at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about letting ball $50? Like, nigga, what the fuck? Like, who does that?" I was like, "Of course she knew you were getting high, but you know, that's your grandmother. Of course she gonna give it to you. But and she not gonna say nothing. She gonna wait till you say something. But of course she knew you getting high."
So as you were talking, I thought two things. First, it's October 13th.
Yeah.
The day we're recording is October 13th. You know what happened 6 months ago?
I think I do.
I
What
stopped
happened this
smoking
month?
crack.
Hey, yeah, I thought so. I wasn't too sure. I wasn't too sure.
October
That was a big
13th.
day.
Today's my 6 month
Yeah.
mark.
Congratulations. Woo! Big boy. That's
Like,
big numbers. Big numbers. Those are big accomplishments, bro.
but
Big
that's
accomplishments. Those are big numbers. Big numbers. That's half a year, baby. Half a year.
so much has happened in the
In
6
just 6
months.
months. Just
Like,
6 months.
and you talk about family. And I think about, like, the fact that still 6 months later, I can't, like, today, my son literally told me, "I don't want to talk to you." And then you talk about your grandpa and everything, and it made me think, like, how much, and like, this isn't one of the topics we have, but just regret. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Well, that's a big one. A
trying to
big
say
one.
this without crying. Like,
Regret's a strong one. That's an emotional one. That's a strong one. That's an emotional one because it's hard.
so one of our topics, like, I'm taking our topics and I'm gonna have to go through later and be like, okay, we talked about this one today instead. Because we have forgiveness, and I look at forgiveness, and it's easy for me to forgive other people.
Or
But one thing that I have been struggling with for 6 months is being able to forgive myself. Because there's a lot of shit I did knowing what I was doing. And I think the worst thing I did is I love my kids, like, to death. Love my kids to death. And before my addiction, one thing I hated the most was my youngest. He's our nephew, and we raised him from since he was a baby. The one thing I hated the most was when his mother, my wife's sister, would be like, "Yeah, I got you a Christmas gift," but we knew damn well that she did not get him a Christmas gift, even though she said it's in the mail. We knew it wasn't in the mail. We knew she didn't get him a Christmas gift. We knew she was just saying that to buy time. And one of the things I regret is not being there for Christmas for my family. Like, I chose to go to this girl's house that got me started smoking so she could see her kids. And I didn't get to my parents until after they had eaten, after they had opened gifts, and then my grandparents were leaving, like, as soon as I got there. And so I regret that. But the thing that I will regret the most from my addiction is I told my kids that I would get them a Christmas gift. I remember I even asked my youngest what he wanted, and he said that my wife was getting him an Oculus, and that he wanted an Oculus. And I said, oh yeah, I got you. But the money that I was going to get their gifts with, I ended up using to smoke. And that's one of the hardest things that, like, that's one of those things that are hard to forgive myself for. Like, and so I look at things like my kids not wanting to talk to me, and I'm like, I deserve it, almost. Like, and almost like you said, that pain you went through when you were sitting there in the cell, like, the pain I feel from my kids not wanting to talk to me, like, that's, I don't want to feel that pain, but that pain is helping me to say, this is why you don't want to go back. And it's almost like this pain is the pain. And I even told my son today, I reached out to him on Xbox, and then he told me he didn't want to talk to me, and I said, I just want to let you know that you saved me.
Yeah.
Because there was one day, a couple of weeks before I stopped, he said, if you want to be in my life, then you go fix yourself. And I told him that's really the thing that's set in motion me getting out. And so I told him, all the lives that I impact, all the lives that get saved because of what I'm doing, it's really because of him. And so that pain I feel is one reason why I do what I do, so that no one else has to feel that same pain.
Listen, it's easy to destroy shit.
Absolutely.
Real easy.
It's harder to put it back together.
Always. And when we're in sobriety, we always want shit fast. We always, we real quick to be like, we're sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry.
But it's not that
because
easy.
we are. It's not. For us, it is. Because we are sorry for what we did. We are. But for another person to forgive us for the things we did, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. And I told you this from day one. It's not on your time. It's just like, my cousins and my family. I'm blessed that my mom and dad understood my addiction, and I said this to them. I was like, my best friend, his family is the opposite. He went to them and they didn't agree with, they basically was like, okay, you get clean, good. And they just stopped talking to him. I was like, I'm blessed that you guys understand that I had an addiction and you guys are backing me on this. And I cherish you guys for that, because I see a lot of guys actually that have that issue. that when they said, you know, I have a addiction and I have a problem, and their families are like, yo, okay, great, fix your shit, but I don't care, and just blew them off, you know. But when you're like what you're doing and you're trying to get that connection back, there's nothing that you're doing wrong. You're doing everything right that you're supposed to. Now, yeah, you're feeling that pain, but don't use that pain in that sense. You know, don't take the pain so hard. It's not like, how do I say this? It's not like the person's like gone. Like my regret, my grandfather's gone. There
Yeah.
is no fixing that. You know, there is no, oh, I'm sorry to my grandfather. There's no sorry. That's just a regret that I can't fix anymore. And that hurts a lot because it's a regret that I'm never gonna be able to fix,
Yeah.
unfortunately. You have a chance to fix it. It's just not on your time. That's all. It's just not on your time. That's the only thing. You just need to be patient, and that's what sucks. That's the only
I'm
thing.
not a patient person.
Neither am I, bro.
And I have
Neither am
patience.
I.
I have patience right here. Right, this thing right here says patience.
Which is a horrible tattoo if you're not patient. Don't know why you got it. Let's get a
Maybe as a
tattoo and I
reminder
don't
to be
follow it.
patient.
Basically, let me get a tattoo and I don't follow it. But
But
understand,
I think that that is because one thing I did want to talk about is the difference between getting clean and in like changing your lifestyle
yeah,
and getting clean and still living in that lifestyle.
yeah,
Like
that's a big difference.
there's a huge, and you and I were talking about it a little bit before, like well, for instance, when I came back from Colorado, like my intentions were, regardless if I'm clean or not, but even like I think now, like even when I was on the plane, I was in Colorado still on the plane to come home, and I called you guys, and we started talking about when I got there so we could smoke. Like,
Such
really,
horrible
bro?
intentions. Such horrible intentions.
Like, seriously, bro? Like, you just got done with the 10-day, not even rehab. Like, it wasn't rehab, so like, I mean, well, I guess that's like, but it was a extensive counseling thing, and I thought I made a breakthrough, and no, you didn't. You just took a 10-day hiatus from smoking. Like,
Basically.
and the first thing I wanted to do when I got back was find my buddy who used to sell to me so I could start smoking.
You went in, you see what's crazy? You went in with the good intentions. It's just that you
Absolutely.
couldn't
But then
you
when I
couldn't
made the
pull
decision
through it.
that I was gonna step down, then I'm like, okay, well, now I'm not a student pastor, so hello drugs.
And that's the problem with what the problem was. It's because you weren't, and this is what I struggle with my spouse. When you're not ready, you're not ready.
No. And
And
that's why it's important, like you said, to change the person, places, and things.
yes,
Because you cannot expect to stay sober for an extended period of time if you do not change people, places, things. It's impossible. If you in your mind think, okay, I'm gonna get sober, but I'm still gonna live the same way I was living, you're not going to stay sober. It's impossible. And I saw it from firsthand experience, like from myself, and I've seen it from other people who that's why relapse, like, and I want to talk about relapse soon, like that's why relapse happens, like, and so I'll bring it up, like people say relapse is a part of recovery. No,
I don't.
it's
I
not.
don't believe that. I'm
It's not.
sorry.
Like if I change people, places, and things, relapse should not be a part of recovery.
I think that I think that relapse is. I think relapse is a part. Okay, I think relapse is a part of recovery to a degree. I think that it's if you aim, you can't. If you aim low, then you're
You're
gonna
gonna hit
get
low.
low results.
Absolutely.
You if you don't think that recovery, if you don't think that relapse is acceptable, then yes, then you aim high. So when you
Absolutely.
don't think that, I can relapse, because when you say, oh, relapse is a part of recovery, you're basically giving permission to, oh, it's okay. So
Absolutely.
if I go and use, then it's okay. Fuck it. I'm okay to use. It's all right. And I don't believe that. I
No,
don't think that's okay.
not at all.
But I also don't think it. I don't want to judge somebody if they make a mistake, because you know recovery's hard. It's not
Absolutely.
easy.
I
You
think
know,
relapse can
some
happen in
Yes,
recovery, but I think
relapse
when
is
we,
definitely
like you said, aiming low, setting the bar low, you're gonna hit low.
yeah,
And so I
exactly,
think to tell someone relapse is a part of recovery, you are giving them now permission to hit low.
exactly. You're
And
basically
and
saying,
so like for me, I'm like, no, relapse is absolutely not part of recovery because
no,
relapse isn't an option in my eyes.
no, it's
Because
not.
if I
I don't think.
relapse, I'm going, I already told myself, because everything I'm doing now in life is connected to recovery. If I
Yep.
relapse, I'm done.
Yes, everything will crumble, and that's how I live. That's how I built. Just like you, I built everything around my recovery. If I relapse, everything that I built will crumble, and then I have nothing. I'll have everything I tried to do with my wife will be destroyed. Everything I built with you and with all our people that we work with will be destroyed. My career and what I'm going to school for will just be for nothing. And it will all come from a couple of seconds doing a drug.
And I already know how 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 it makes me feel. If I use again, I am not stopping. No question. If I use again, I'm not stopping. So that's why relapse is not
That
an
too.
option. And to me,
Yes,
relapse is
that
not part of recovery.
that
And
too.
and so now the position I'm in life, working with addicts now, working with people in recovery, the last thing I want to tell people is, hey, relapse is part of recovery. Because now I'm telling you, relapse, it's okay if you relapse. Like, yes, at the end of the day, relapse can happen in recovery. So yes, it's okay if you relapse. Because one day you didn't, well, you can become an addict in one day, but like
Yeah,
it may not be one time. So yes, you can relapse, but there's still doors where you can get back. Like
yeah,
relapse
damn
isn't the
right.
end. Relapse doesn't have to be the end. And so like I want people who are listening to not hear that I'm saying like, oh, once someone gets into rehab or relapse, then they can never come back. Like
Exactly.
I've seen many people who are like 16, 17, 18 years in recovery, and but really they started like we'll say like 20 years ago, but 3 years in they relapsed. But then they got right back on the train, and now they've been clean for like 17 years. And so I'm not saying that you can't come back from relapse, but I think when that is the thought, just like me going to Colorado and thinking like, oh, when I get home, and this is crazy because you say I went in with the right intentions. What's crazy is I was already thinking about when I got back that I was going to smoke the biggest rock ever.
Jesus Christ.
So it's almost like when I made the decision to step down from being student pastor, it wasn't because there were multiple reasons, because I knew what I was doing was wrong. So I knew I couldn't keep living this double life. And so by me stepping down, that was me making that decision that I am choosing this drug over my purpose.
Yeah.
And so like,
and I knew that.
My intentions were, when I was getting into it, was to go back. And so that was almost similar to saying like, yeah, relapse is part of recovery. Because in my mind, yes, it definitely was part of recovery, because I'm gonna use like crazy when I get back.
But in your head,
I think it's dangerous. What's that?
And that's what I think it is. I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous if you think that. That's why I think it shouldn't be used so freely the way it's used.
No, because it allows people to take their guard down.
Exactly. It's used so frequent and so freely, especially in like outpatient programs, especially in AA. Like, oh, relapse is a part of recovery and da da da. You're giving permission to just relapse, and that's not okay. I get that relapse happens, and that's understandable. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. But to give someone permission to just say, hey, aim low, fuck that. We're here to aim high.
It
We're here to be
changes,
fucking, bro.
it changes how you move. It changes how you move, in that if you think relapse is a part of recovery, now when I move around on a daily basis, I am not paying attention to people, places, things. Because if it happens, it's part of recovery.
Exactly.
Like, I can't truly recover until I relapse. No.
That
What kind of bullshit is that?
That makes no sense.
Like, I can't truly live unless I kill somebody. What? I can't truly know what it's like to live until I take somebody's life when I see death. That's stupid. That's stupid.
When you say things like that, it's like, how do you?
I can't.
That's what.
I've been working out every morning. That's like me saying like, oh, you know what? I can't get fit until I get fat again.
Exactly.
No. And that's not, how about you just get fit and stop doing the bullshit that you were doing before?
Exactly. How you need to look at it in a bigger sense. That's what I'm saying. When you aim low, you get low results. When you aim high, you get high results. The results that you deserve. You deserve to be clean and in sobriety.
So I think I like where we went today. I don't want to add. I think we'll talk about one more thing, because the other things I have on here. Next week we have the person who was supposed to be on today. He's an awesome guy. I love this dude. He is a huge reason why I am where I am today. If it wasn't the day I left Scorpio and the girls, this guy who's on next week, and I am like ecstatic for Scorpio to meet this dude. Like, this guy has been a huge help just in my recovery journey. And I look up to him, and I love this dude. And so I am so excited to have him on next week. But I know I want to talk a little bit about what we talked about tonight with him. Just that is relapse a part of recovery? Because I know where his thought is on it. And then I did want to talk about connection being the enemy of addiction, and isolation being the enemy of recovery. And so, or connection being the opposite of addiction. And so, he's all about staying connected with people. He helps out in drug court. And so I really want to save that for when we have him on to hear his thoughts about it. And so, the last thing I want us to really talk about is, you guys will see a Thursday thought on it. Scorpio did it, but it's self-sabotage. And I think a lot of times, maybe not like everybody knows addiction is self-sabotage like crazy. You're sabotaging yourself every day in addiction. Each time you use, you're sabotaging whatever bit of life you have left. But I think a lot of times in recovery, we do self-sabotage without even thinking. And I think a lot of times, like, and I'll let Scorpio go into it a little bit, but I think a lot of times we are so used to having lost everything in addiction. We're so used to everything being shitty in addiction and we're so used to getting behind the eight ball, I guess you could say, being in the dump, that when good things start coming back, we don't know what to do. And I think a lot of times people in recovery and it may not even be like consciously, but subconsciously we self-sabotage ourselves when good things start coming back, because we don't know what to do with it. And so I think self-sabotage is a huge thing in recovery. It's not part of recovery.
No.
But it happens in recovery a lot of times.
Self-sabotage and small things, you'd be surprised. Like self-sabotage is like you don't even see when you're doing it. You know, that's the hard part about self-sabotaging yourself. Like showing up late for work, you know, and you don't see yourself doing it. You know, that's, you know, when you're trying to get promoted or you're trying to move forward, but you can't see why. Like, why is this not working? Why is this not happening for me? So you start being late for work, or, you know, you're oversleeping or things like that. And in your head, you're like, why is this happening? That's your subconscious doing it because you're doing it. And that's what self-sabotage is. You're trying to get to a goal, but underneath the layers, you're literally self-sabotaging yourself, trying to get to that goal, and something's stopping you, and it's yourself. And it sometimes, and a lot of the time, you need somebody outside of you to tell you, like, hey, like, you something, you know, something's not right. Like, you're falling off, you know. And I've needed, even especially in my recovery, I've needed people to kind of catch me, because I do it. I do it a lot, you know, especially in my recovery. I have done it. You know, like I'll show up late for curfews, things like that, because it started getting to a point where I was trying to get to a certain point in my recovery, and I felt like I was like hitting a ceiling. Like I couldn't get further where I wanted to get. And so I started being late for curfews. Um I started ignoring like chores, things like that I really needed to going to meetings, things like that. And I didn't understand, like, why I just started ignoring these things that I hold that are important to me. And I didn't understand why. And then I think it was my counselor that brought it up to me. And she was like, I want you to read this packet, and it's called Self-Sabotage. So I read it, and then I realized after reading this packet about self-sabotage, I was like, oh shit. I was like, this is explaining everything about what I'm going through. This is, hold on. Let's see here. Let's see. Self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is when you say you want something and then go and make sure it doesn't happen. So when you say you're looking for a certain goal and you make sure somehow it doesn't happen for you. So you say you want to go and we say we want to do this podcast and we did everything in our power not to do it. We did everything in our power before we got to this point to not do it. And it took a man to literally sit down in front of Preacher and say, what do you mean you're going to start tomorrow?
Which we're going to have him on in a couple weeks. I can't wait for that episode.
Exactly. It took Preacher going on another podcast. Now, mind you, we were talking about this 4 months about doing this podcast. And it took Preacher literally going on this man's podcast and this man literally saying, Preacher said something about, I'm going to do it in a couple of weeks. Me and my friend are going to do it. And the dude's like, what do you mean a couple of weeks?
He said, how about you do it tomorrow?
Tomorrow. He was like, why don't you do it tomorrow? Start dropping a few episodes and then go from there. And next thing you know, and he wanted us just to drop, a few practice episodes and then start recording. Listen, here we are doing episode we can't even count on our fingers no more how many episodes.
I think the one we're on right now, like that we're talking on right now, is number 10. We just dropped, like in the real calendar, we just dropped 7 this past Friday. So by the time this one airs, this will be number 10.
Exactly, and that's because instead of self-sabotaging ourselves, we overcame it. But it took somebody outside.
If you remember, Scorpio, I was talking about dropping the first episode on October 1st.
Yeah, I remember.
So we would only be coming up to our second episode if we would have stuck to that.
Yeah, because that was the original plan. We were gonna wait and we were gonna we were gonna record first all the episodes and then start dropping them by season. So we were gonna do what he said, record, and then October 1st we're gonna drop all those episodes that we've been dropping. But we're a little premature when it comes to some things. We were way too excited.
After we recorded that first episode, I was like, no, we need to do this.
We could not hold our load. Sorry about that. It was definitely premature ejaculation moment for everybody. It had to go.
Sorry for anybody listening.
It had to happen, guys. I'm sorry, because Preacher had one and he was like, dude, I like this.
I think I told you as I was dropping the episode, oh, he's gone. He's gone. Hopefully he comes back soon. But yeah, so with him being gone, I think that's a good time. Self-sabotage, it happens a lot in recovery. And so I think that's one thing that people really need to pay attention to. He's back. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm back.
I was like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, I'm
but
back.
I was just saying, like, self-sabotage it's something that people need to pay attention to. It's something that while it doesn't always happen, it can happen subconsciously. So You may not always see it. You may not always know that you're doing it, but if you pay attention, you'll be able to recognize it. And it could be small things, like Scorpio said. It could be every day you're showing up late to work because, oh man, this job's starting to go good. Like I'm not used to this, or you see things start going good, so you end up relapsing because of it. And so
that's a big one.
I think self-sabotage is something that, and that's why it's important to be connected with the right people, because other people can see it before you see it, and they can be like, yo bro, like maybe you're showing up late, what's going on? And I think it's important. That's
I think
I
that's why
say be careful when you do this, but like that your employers know, like, hey, I'm in recovery, because like I would, if I was an employer and I knew my employee was in recovery, then looking at them being late, to a normal person being late could be totally something totally different than someone in recovery being late, because it could be self-sabotage. And so I think even employers that have people in recovery, like don't be quick to let them go if they've been late, like, because it may be them seeing that, oh, this is going good, especially if it's out of character. Like they may be seeing like, oh, this is going good, and now they're starting to self-sabotage that. And so don't be quick to let them go, like talk to them. But man, it is getting late, and I'm yawning and everything, and so
that's a proverbial yawn.
we tackled a lot today.
We did, and
I'm so happy where this podcast is going. And the fact that now we're bringing up topics, and we're finding ways to make this sustainable, to get out to people, so that we can motivate and inspire people to make change, not only in themselves, but for people around. And so, like I said, I can't wait for next week. We're gonna have this dude on, and I love this dude. He is extremely crucial in my recovery, and so I just can't wait for people to hear his wisdom, his insight. He has a lot of wisdom. He dresses really nice. His shoes, his shoes
really
are
nice.
On point. This dude is awesome. But if you haven't already, we would love for you to subscribe, like and subscribe, and we want you to hit that bell right now. Scorpio is saying right now. And so like, subscribe, hit that bell so that you'll be notified whenever we drop a new video, because now, instead of just Friday at 6, now we have Meditation Mondays, we have the Thursday Thoughts, and we have the Friday episodes. And
we have a whole team to support now.
Once we get to 100, we're doing live shows. So and the live shows will be whenever we can record. And so if you want to be privy to when we jump on to the live stream, make sure to click that bell so that you know when we're popping up on live.
And we are also trying to get to 1,000. Let's not forget that one, because we would love to shave that man's beard to the right of me over here. So let's not forget, we are trying to get to that 1,000. Yeah, we're not forgetting that. So 1,000, guys. Let's get to those numbers.
And then merch, our swag.
My bad.
Scorpio's getting yelled at.
Oh, man.
We have our swag. So if you want to pick up some merch, the link will be in the description below. make sure to go get that merch, support us. Not only is Tiffany is doing all the admin stuff for us, she is going to work on finding sponsors for this show. I have a couple that I'm looking at. I Am Enough and a couple more that I saw. And so we're trying to get some sponsors to sponsor this show. That'd be cool. But if you want our merch, make sure to hit that description, hit the link in the description below. If you want to support this channel, because eventually we're going to need upkeep and things like that. So if you want to support us in any way, let us know either in the comments below or email us at the email in the description below. But I think I covered everything.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. Again, Scorpio, as I say all the time, thank you. Wouldn't be able to do this without you. It's been a journey.
Hey, you follow our lead.
I couldn't think, well, besides having my kids with me, I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate this 13th, but to this 6-month mark, but to be here today. So,
I'm with you, bro.
So I thank you. I thank all of you for watching and for your support and for continuing to watch, because again, we want to be able to do this without you. And so do you have anything before we peace out?
Congratulations on the 6 months, man. Hey, another one, man. Halfway
6 more and it's a year.
That's right. Halfway there to a year, man. Congratulations.
Halfway.
I'm right behind you.
Which I am so happy for.
Yep.
That is all that we have. We can't wait to see you guys next week. Remember, we'll have another guest on next week. Can't wait. But until then, always remember to love yourselves and love each other. Peace.